Hola gente, ¿cómo están? Estamos nuevamente en otro encuentro con el grupo Grite, esta vez con tres invitados especiales, no uno. Tenemos por un lado a Jonathan Risner, con el que ya hemos conversado en otra ocasión, que en esta ocasión viene a participar de esta charla y ayudarnos con la traducción. Tenemos a Felipe Guerra, que está en Portugal y ha sido nuestro contacto y aparte ha escrito un excelente capítulo, uno de los mejores dentro de una colección editada sobre Dario Argento. Ha sido un placer leer su trabajo y tenemos además como invitado nada más ni nada menos que a una leyenda del terror italiano o del cine italiano en general, porque ha trabajado muchísimos géneros, más allá de que se lo recuerda especialmente como un titán del terror italiano. Nada más ni nada menos que el maestro Luigi Cozzi. Bienvenido, welcome a esta conversación. La idea entonces es comenzar con las preguntas. Emiliano, que es la otra persona del grupo, tiene problemas con el audio, así que yo haría las preguntas de ambos. Mi primera pregunta entonces para Luigi Cozzi es sobre uno de sus primeros films, que es un giallo hermoso, que si no lo vieron lo recomiendo mucho, que se llama L'assassino è costretto a uccidere ancora. Y mirando ese giallo, ese thriller, uno de los aspectos que me llamó la atención es que parte de la acción transcurre en un departamento que es muy moderno, completamente amarillo, y es una maravilla de la modernidad. Mi pregunta es, ¿cómo lo eligieron ese espacio, ese departamento? ¿Lo pensaron? ¿Esta elección está relacionada con el género giallo al cual el film pertenece?
No, it's when we started to tour for the location of the picture in Milano, North Italy.
Ok.
They brought me to see a few apartments which could be used. And one of them was this crazy yellow apartment. And I immediately thought it was a joke, you know, because the picture was giallo too, yellow too. And so I decided to use it. It was incredible. I saw the people who lived there were crazy, all yellow. And the most strange thing is when you touch one of the walls, you get a shock, an electric shock, because it was made of the material which brought electricity.
Veo que sabes español.
Not so much.
Bastante bien.
Doing
Eh,
pretty well.
Cuando hiciste esa película, ¿la palabra giallo ya se usaba para hablar de esos thrillers en Italia? ¿O es una palabra que se usa ahora?
No, the giallo for mysteries, for voodoo night, was born in Italy at the beginning of the 30s of the last century, when one of the biggest Italian publishers had to publish Edgar Wallace, Agatha Christie's, and he decided to put them all under a yellow cover, creating a new style for that kind of material, which at the time it was unusual, very unusual. And that series of books is still going on today, and it's called the Giallo books.
Yes.
Because when you see in a newsstand, you see a yellow cover, by now it is a Giallo. It is a mystery, I mean. So when Dario started the Italian mystery boom with the bird with the crystal plumage, it was considered a giallo movie because it was in the style of that kind of novels. And so that term was used for the movies too. But it was born nearly 100 years ago.
Yes. Voy a hacer las preguntas que correspondían a
If you
Emiliano.
if you if you
Yes.
wait a moment, I
Yep.
show you one of those giallos. One
Perfect.
moment. Here they are. This is one. You see?
Yes. Sí.
This is
Perfecto.
Parameton book by Alistair Gardner. This is, and these are the modern ones, of course, but the style is the same as nearly 100 years ago. You know immediately which kind of book this is.
Se siguen,
Only giallo.
se continúan publicando.
Yes, sure.
Ok.
Sure.
¿Y es editorial Mondadori todavía?
Sì, Mondadori, sì.
Bien.
Many others imitated that, but all of them used the same giallo cover that Mondadori used for the first time
Ok. Bien.
at the beginning of the 30s.
Bien. Voy a hacer las preguntas que tenía pensada Emiliano por un problema con su audio. En una entrevista, usted habló de su amor por Ray Harryhausen. Queríamos saber entonces hasta qué punto su obra influyó en sus films.
Well, I loved Harryhausen movies since I was a kid because they were fantastic, beautiful effects. And what most fascinated me was the fact that it was just one man doing every effort, everything with his hands. He worked alone and did the space battle, monster destroying city all by himself, not even with a crew. This was a kind of magical thing for me,
Yes.
and and I always loved these movies. I always when I started to think to do a picture in Italy, an Italian science fiction picture, I thought I needed someone like Harryhausen, one man who could do all the tricks, all the special effects, because in that way you could contain the cost. If we used blue backing, many special effects crew and other things, the cost would be too high for Italian budgets. And I was lucky enough to find one guy who could do the same thing that Harryhausen did, not of his quality, of course, but could be okay. And that's how I succeeded in making Star Crash and Hercules, with just one man doing all the special effects.
Bien. Una de sus primeras películas es La portiera nuda. Es una comedia erótica, algo olvidada. Sin embargo, es una excelente película con una gran cantidad de movimientos de cámara. Hay una cámara muy fluida, hay una escena de patinaje en donde la cámara eh, va por las piernas de la bailarina. Hay un cierre en iris que es muy, muy novedoso. Le pido a la gente que por favor vea la película. Hay momentos en que hay un pequeño cierre en iris, se escucha la voz de los personajes, la cámara está estática y es una manera de economizar recursos. Es una película muy novedosa que muestra a un director muy maduro, a pesar de ser una película, a pesar de ser una de sus primeras películas. ¿Cuál es su opinión hoy de La portiera nuda?
Well, La Portiera Nuda is a picture that I would never have desired to do because it was too far from what I like in movies. But I was offered to direct it, and I decided to accept because the first picture I did, The Killer Must Kill Again, was not a hit. So my career could end there, and I did not want to end there. And so I accepted to do that picture also because the same producer were thinking to do a science fiction picture afterwards, adapted from a novel I like very much, The Mind Thing by Frederick Brown, an American writer.
Yeah.
And so they said, if you do this picture well, maybe we'll think about you as a director for that science fiction project. So I accepted and I did it. It is a comedy, but it's a light comedy. It's not too much on sex.
No, no. Pero entiendo que no es quizá la película que quería hacer, pero sinceramente es una muy buena película filmada con mucha profesionalidad y muchas ideas.
Well, that's me. That's me. I was. I think I was already. You can see from The Killer Must Kill Again. It was a very good giallo. It was a very low budget thing, but it didn't look like that. It worked. It was better than many giallo pictures made with much more money. Because I have been working on the movies since I was 16, 17 year old. I did picture in 8 millimeters. I did picture in 16 millimeters. And then finally, I worked with Dario Argento. He taught me to write a picture. He teaches me a lot of things, and then he wanted me on the set by his side. So I had a big experience with him on the set, and I think that all shows on The Killer is Must Kill Again, and in the other picture I did immediately. A few months after the La Portiera Nuda, I made the last concert, which was a kind of love story,
Yes, sí.
but made in my own way. And it was a top grosser in Italy. It made a fortune at the box office. And he went abroad. He was number one in Japan and in other countries. And it's still today, it's a very good movie. It's a romantic movie, but it's very good. And it shows my capacities as a director with a good team.
Mencionó en una entrevista que uno de los géneros que más le interesa es la ciencia ficción. ¿Cuáles son sus referentes literarios o cinematográficos con respecto a la ciencia ficción?
Well, I grew up watching the science fiction movies from the 50s, the Jack Arnold movies, the Ray Harryhausen movies, and I Forbidden Planet, This Island Earth. And I loved all those movies. They were the dream of my life.
¿Y cree que los efectos especiales, el incremento, la mejora en efectos especiales ha añadido, ha mejorado el cine ciencia ficción o lo ha perjudicado?
No, this I don't understand. Didn't understand the question.
So the question is, do you think kind of technological advancements in cinema today, maybe for instance, Fernando, CGI has detracted or negatively affected science fiction films, or has made them better? Does that make sense?
Well, till today, I think the best science fiction movie I ever seen is 2001 by Kubrick. And it had not CGI. It's better than every CGI movie I've seen on the screen. CGI is a cold. It's cold. It doesn't give you a sense of wonder, because a very important element in science fiction movie was the audience to question how did they do that. That it was a kind of defiance to the audience, to understand how could they do that things. Think of 2001. There are incredible effects. I've seen it on a giant screen of Cinerama. I think the CinemaScope version of 2001 is crap, because you don't see the special effects. You don't see the men tiny like ants moving around on the giant Cinerama screen. They are tall, and you really wonder how did they do that. But with the CGI, it's just an engineer pushing the buttons and a program. And where is the magic in that? It's like a cartoon. Don't you see city being destroyed, planet crashing, sea washing, everything, deluge, but don't have a soul, don't have a feeling of reality. They're just a program.
Claro. Ha trabajado, ha hecho algunos pequeños giallos o thrillers para televisión, para series como La Porta sul Buio o Turno di Notte. Muy buenos, muy buenos. Y que se pueden ver, ¿no? Así que invito a la gente a que los vea. ¿Cuáles eran los límites que le imponía trabajar en televisión?
With television, it was mostly a matter of censorship. It's when we worked on the Door into Darkness, the big problem was censorship, because television didn't want knives, didn't want blood, didn't want violence, So I wrote my episode, The Neighbor, exactly
Excelente.
avoiding all of those things, but putting in it a big suspense. I wrote it in a Cornell Woolrich style. Cornell Woolrich is a big American writer.
Yes, sí.
Of mysteries, He's the most artistic writer of mystery, I think. And I did write it in the same style, and no blood, no violence, nothing special. And because the television people are stupid, basically they are stupid, they didn't realize it was very strong story. So they passed it without problems. He said, yeah, that's okay. You can do it. While they discussed a lot of things with Dario, because Dario had the killer using a hook to threaten a lady, and they say no, the hook, no, it's too frightening, and he had to change it to another weapon. This kind of thing. When they showed, when they aired my episode, TV station was flooded with protests from the audience because they said, we have been scared to hell. You cannot show us these pictures. They are too terrible. And they called back Dario and said, let us show the other episode. It's not possible to air another thing like that one. But that was because they were stupid. They looked at the story, at the picture, just looking for blood, violence, and that was nothing on the screen. But on the screen was a real frightening atmosphere. They didn't realize that. They were stupid, I tell you. I think they still are.
Recomiendo muchísimo El vecino en la Porta sul Buio. De verdad es un giallo, es una pequeña joya, excelentemente hecho, condensado en apenas una hora. De verdad es uno de los mejores trabajos de Luigi Cozzi. Y de verdad toda la serie, los 4 capítulos son muy buenos. Afortunadamente la serie se puede ver, se consigue y es muy recomendable de ver. Mencionó a Cornel Bullrich, un autor que acá en Argentina también ha sido muy adaptado. ¿Qué novelas o historias se quedó con las ganas de llevar a la pantalla? ¿Hay alguna novela que le hubiese gustado filmar?
No, I never saw. I love his stories, his novels, and his short stories, which are incredible in quality, most of them. But I'm never really thought of working on any of them. It's because usually I work out the stories for my pictures. You know, when I find the producer, I listen to the producer what he would like to do, because it's difficult to convince a producer to do something you want to do. He wants to do something he wants to do. And then when I realize which kind of story he has in mind, very, very vaguely, but he has in mind, I work out something similar, but in my own way. And then I propose that to him. And that's the way I've been working practically ever.
¿Y cómo llegó a Star Crash? ¿Es una película que usted ofreció o se la ofrecieron?
¿Será?
Fernando is asking about a particular movie called Star Crash.
Yes.
And more specifically, was it a movie that was offered to you to make, or did you propose the idea to make the movie?
No. It is a long story. It's a long story. Because I started working in the movie hoping to do science fiction movie, willing to do only science fiction movies. Because I thought I've seen every kind of science fiction movie which was had been made, and I was convinced that most of them I could do better, because they were so stupid that it was impossible that I could do something more stupid than them. And this was my concept. And I've been working on science fiction because in the 70s, before Star Crash, I was willing to show that science fiction movies were a reality. were a quality kind of cinema, and fought for 2 years before finding a theater which offered me the possibility of showing 10 days of science fiction movies, every day a different movie, selected by me, showing the history of the science fiction cinema and the quality of the science fiction cinema. And it started in January of 75. I think there were 12 days. And because of the heat of the people who came, we lasted there for 3 months. 3 months, every day, a different science fiction film on the screen. And they stopped me after 3 months because they wanted me to repeat the festival, they say, this kind of festival, in Florence and then in Milan. And so I went on until September in those cities, because we nearly got 200,000 paying spectators. It was a terrific hit, which convinced me that science fiction had an audience willing to see science fiction movie. And as a matter of fact, a little later, 1.5 years, Star Wars came. And this was the proof that people love science fiction if it was done well,
Claro.
with intelligence, with talent. And on the wave or the hit of those festivals, I started to buy all the science fiction movies, because in Italy, after 7 years from the premiere of the picture, those were destroyed. They were the prints, the 35mm prints were discarded and threw away, because they couldn't do any more money for the releasers. And so I started to buy pictures which had already been shown in Italy, but had disappeared from our market, like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the Don Siegel classic, which
Yes.
couldn't be seen anywhere in Italy. I could buy it for $1,000 in 35. So I put them on my festivals, and they started making a lot of money. My ratio of Invasion of the Body Snatchers made more, 1 million. It was incredible quantity of money, and I decided that I had to convince a producer now that science fiction worked at the box office, that it was possible to make money with a science fiction movie. And so I made a test reel of special effects, because I had found in the meanwhile a guy who wanted to imitate Harryhausen. He could do a lot of effects all by himself, not of the high quality, but good enough, because effects in science fiction movies at that time were very poor. Star Wars had not yet been released.
Claro.
And so I wrote a science fiction story, and started proposing it. I went to Sergio Leone, I went to Zacariello, to many producers, because now I had the hit behind me. I had the Last Concert behind me, which had made a lot of money. So they listened to me, to my proposals. But of course, all of them said, yeah, but that's American stuff. It's not for Italian. And I kept trying and trying and trying. And one guy, one producer, what said to me, no, I am not interested at all in a science fiction project. After the Cannes Festival in 1977, called me back and said, I want to listen to your project at the condition that is something like Star Wars, because Star Wars had just opened in the USA and was making millions, billions. And so he said, if you propose me something like that, I'll do it. And of course, I had a problem at that point because Star Wars opened in Italy 6 months afterwards. And I had no way to know exactly what that picture was. But thanks to God, 2 years before, Lucas had sold the screenplay to Ballantine Books in New York. And Ballantine Books had made a novelization of Star Wars and sold it in the newsstands. It didn't sell a copy. It was a disaster. But one copy I bought because I went to a newsstand and saw the copy of Star Wars, the American edition. I was not interested into novelization, even if science fiction. I was not interested because they had no value in literature. But it had a fantastic Ralph McQuarrie cover. It was the first time I saw a Ralph McQuarrie cover, and it fascinated me. So I immediately bought it. I never read it, just put it on the shelf with the cover to look at until the phone call with that producer. Then when I remember, I had the novelization of Star Wars. So I went on the right shelf, got the book and read it in half an hour because it was very fast. I'm a fast reader. And I immediately knew everything because it was the script. So I knew exactly what Star Wars was, and mostly I knew where Star Wars got its inspiration, because most of it was coming from the pulps of science fiction literatures of the 30s and from the 40s. And so I wrote something for this producer in the style of science fiction from the 30s and the 40s, review through Star Wars. And it worked. He loved it and said, let's do it.
En Star Crash, uno de los roles protagonistas lo tiene Christopher Plummer. ¿Cómo llegó a la película y quedó usted contento con la actuación de Christopher Plummer? Algunas críticas han dicho que su actuación es un poco demasiado seria para el espíritu divertido de la película.
I wanted that. I wanted to do that. The emperor, he was hired to work for 3 days with me. He was perfect. He knew everything of the script, every line. I finished him in 1 day and a half. All what you see in the picture was shot in 1 day and a half. And he understood that I wanted it to be a kind of romantic counterpart of the wild young characters, the heroine, the friends, the prince, and also to give the feeling of a fairy tale. The ending of Star Wars with Plummer talking with a very soft voice is like the end of the fairy tale, you know. It's I saw it working that way. That the way I felt it to do.
Y en ese sentido, ¿cómo fue trabajar con Lou Ferrigno?
Lou Ferrigno was a kind, a boyish, kind of kid, a giant kid, you know. He loved Harryhausen movies. He loved fantasy movies. He really loved the way I made Hercules in that picture, you know, which is a picture with a lot of science fictional elements.
Sí.
Because I had hoped to do another science fiction movie, but they offered me that, and I turned that into a kind of science fiction movie.
A pesar de eso, Hércules toma mucho de la mitología. De verdad que es una película que toma mucho de la mitología del personaje. Es una película muy interesante.
See, it's
sí.
When I was asked to do because Hercules was going to be shot by another director, and Ferrigno was already here in Rome preparing to shoot Hercules. When Golan and Globus from Canon,
Sí.
they came here and met with the director they selected, and the director gave them his script for Hercules to start 10 days afterwards. And in the afternoon, Golan called me and said, "Luigi, come to my hotel immediately." And I went to him, and he was furious with this script and said, "This script is a piece of shit. It's impossible. We cannot do this. We are in a tragic situation because Ferrigno is here. We are paying him. And 10 days from now, he cannot shoot this picture. It would be a disaster." And so they said, "Listen, tomorrow morning we fly back to Los Angeles. But if you come here at 7 when we make breakfast before going to the airport and bring to us a synopsis of how you would like to do Hercules, if it's okay, you'll do the picture and the script." And so I went home, and because I like mythology, I had a book, I think the Robert Fraser, about all the myths, mythology. And I love that because it's a kind of science fiction of the past, you know. And I picked up some inspiration, plus the Superman kind of things, and wrote 3 pages. And the morning after, I went to the hotel to Golan, read the pages, and they said, "The picture is yours. Go and write the script. 2 weeks. Can you do it in 2 weeks?" I said, "I'll try." And I succeeded in doing that.
En sus experiencias como director ha trabajado en otros países, por ejemplo, Colombia, Irak. ¿Cómo fue trabajar en otros países? ¿Cómo se acopló? ¿Fue una experiencia que disfrutó trabajar en otros países?
Oh, it was perfect. Everything worked. We had in Colombia, for the Colombian scenes, when we arrived in Barranquilla,
Sí.
they gave us a Colombian crew. We had from Italy, we had the main technicians only, and all of the rest came from Bogota. And they worked very well. They knew the job. So I didn't feel any difference with my usual crew. And it was a very nice experience. I have no problem. I think that the language of cinema is the same everywhere. Same problems, same satisfactions, same honors, same troubles. But I think it's the same everywhere. It's a kind of international community.
No sé si la ha llegado a ver, supongo que sí, pero ¿cuál es su opinión de cómo Dario Argento cerró la trilogía de las tres madres, la terza madre? ¿La vio? ¿Cuál es su opinión?
Dario made two pictures, and he saw that actually, because in those two pictures there are three models,
Sí.
they were all there, and he thought it was over, and he worked to different story from that moment on. But the people seems not to realize that. And people started to tell him, when you do the third mother, when you do the third mother. And he always refused because he considered it finished. And in the end, he surrendered. He surrendered. He did the third mother.
En un reportaje, usted mencionó que hacer películas se ha convertido más en un hobby, en un pasatiempo, que en un ingreso de dinero. ¿Eso le da más libertad al elegir temas o películas para hacer?
No, no comprendido.
Jonathan, no sé si estás.
Do you hear me?
Black.
Sí, se te escucha.
Okay. Well, so the question is, Luigi, in some interviews, you've mentioned that filmmaking in some ways became a hobby, and less kind of a job to make money. And so the question is, when you arrived at that point, did filmmaking then become kind of a more open-ended, or I should say, when it became less of a vocation to make money, did you start to think of filmmaking different? Did you begin to kind of widen your interest and thoughts about how filmmaking could be? Does that make sense?
Yes, it's not exactly like that. I thought I could do. First of all, I started my career working as a magazine editor, a science fiction magazine editor. I became that when I was 18 years old. And I love science fiction literature, translated book, edited anthologies, did a lot of work on that. My biography is as thick as this. And I kept doing that all through the movies, all through the movie period, because every time I did a picture, because they were very difficult to be budgeted, to organize them. I calculated that I worked on most of them for more than 1 year and a half, nearly two. Star Crash took me 2 years, even 2 years and a half from the beginning to the end. Because at the beginning I had to find a story, to find producer. The time I shot a picture was short, but the time I worked only on that picture was long. And so the same for Hercules, for most of the other picture I did. Because I was working, trying to do something nobody else was trying to do in Italy. and I succeeded, but I had a lot of sweet, a lot of problems, and I all through that time I kept working on literature, doing essays, editing book, and other things like I'm doing right now too. It's so it's I forget what I was telling. Can you say again and answer the question?
So, let me see. So, you've talked about today, in some ways, how a certain picture, when you made a certain movie,
Yeah, no, okay.
you began to kind of acquired a kind of freedom to do what you wanted to do, and as
Yes,
opposed to, say, in television, you had some kind of limitations that were imposed on you.
no,
Um,
it's
yeah. So, was there a moment where you began to think of cinema as a wider possibilities and things that you could do, as opposed to having limitations? I don't know if that makes sense.
it's the kind of cinema I wanted to do was very difficult to be done here in Italy. As a matter of fact, let's say that Star Crash, Hercules were not made by Italian producers. I had to find a producer abroad, which is not easy, It means traveling. You need also a lot of luck. And it's I wanted to stay doing that, but it was very difficult. It was very difficult to make a living out of that. And past the 70s, in the 80s, it started to become always more and more difficult to find work in the cinema, because the cinema was going down. In the 70s was the last 10 years which business was good. But starting with the 80s, television in Italy, the Italian market had been very rich until the end of the 70s, when television became free. Because before we had two channels in Italy, black and white channels. And those channels had made a deal with the owner of the theaters that they were not going to show pictures were uh, which had not 25-year old. So when you went to a theater, you see a picture made 6 months before. When you switch on television, you saw a picture made 25 years before. And that was the fortune for the theater's owners, because you had to go to a theater to see a modern movie, And that's why we had a very, very rich market and a lot of money for everyone. But at the end of the 70s, there was a new rule, a political matter. Television was set free for everybody. Before, only the state owned 2 channels. And if you open one, you got arrested immediately. After the end of the 70s, television became free. Everybody could open it. And there are not even yet a law about television. So television networks, small networks, they appeared everywhere. And they were even showing pictures stolen from the theaters, hijacked. And so the audience started climbing down, down, down. And it was a disaster going all through the 80s. And by, let's say, 93, in 93, all the companies, Italian companies, or releasing or producing, closed down. Television took over the theaters, took over the releasing companies, took over the market. So every picture produced in Italy by that moment on, and until today, has to be decided by television people. Because in the end, that picture will stay on television forever. So all the people I knew, the independents, all the people I worked with, producer, were jobless. They retired. Thanks to God, in the same time, I had opened with Dario Argento the store Profondo Rosso here in Rome, and I started working on it. So I survived. I did a couple, 2-3 documentaries. I did some work with Dario when he worked, but there were no other possibility. I just returned to cinema in 2014 when I started working on a new movie, Blood on Melius Moon, yes. Because I discovered that by the new digital systems, it was possible to do a picture without money and in full freedom. So I did one, then they offered me 2 other pictures, and I did all those other pictures. But then came the COVID and stopped everything again. But thanks to God, I still the Profondo Rosso store, which for me is okay, because I've always been a collector, so I've always been a fan. I always enjoyed the models, the action figures. So my life has not changed at all. We edit books. We have published more than 200 books by now, and I edit all of them. It's for me it's okay, but the movie now is impossible. Television in Italy produces only local product, local stories, not science fiction, not horror anymore.
Fernando, can I ask a quick question?
Sí, por supuesto.
Because I'm really curious. I'm really curious because today it's very easy to make films because of digital cameras and computer editing, but it's also very easy to change old films. And you can see filmmakers such as George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, they are always changing and recutting their old films. So, Luigi, have you ever thought about taking one of your old films and re-editing them on the computer, maybe improving the effects or adding scenes or cutting scenes? It's something that you ever thought of doing?
No, I don't have that kind of thought, because when a picture is done, for me, it's done. It's I prefer to doing something new. I'm always looking ahead. That's what I want. There are so many other things that I would like to do, not working on the old stuff.
Bien. De mi parte, la última pregunta justamente menciona Blood on Melius Moon. Básicamente la película es una suerte de comentario sobre la historia del cine, sobre su propia vida como director y hasta cierto punto sobre el declive del cine en Italia. Hizo esa película, más allá de lo que ha contado, pensando un poco en el estado del cine en Italia o en el mundo cuando hizo esa película, una forma de recontar la historia del cine.
Sì, è un film in libertà, diciamo. Ci ho messo 2 anni a fare. It took me 2 years to do it, because I wanted to do it exactly as I had thought it had to be, even if I have no money, no budget at disposal. And I think I did. I'm always been loving experimental cinema. That's why I changed so many times the story of my picture, the kind of story of my picture, because every picture is defiance, is something I must win, must do that. And Blood on Melia's Moon is a way I consider it a free cinema, because nobody can tell this is the pattern, you must do a picture. No. Until a new director with a genius mind comes with a new way and shows that it can be done even in that way, why not? I'm not a genius, but I like freedom. I like to invent. I like to do strange things. And I many things I have done may be wrong, but I respect the viewers, the spectators, and I do my best not to bore them. My picture, you can hate them, but they are funny.
Yes.
They are fast. They are moving. They contain strange things. So many people like them. Others hate them. It's okay. I am not trying to do masterpiece. I'm trying to do experiments.
Bueno, nosotros amamos sus películas. Felipe, ¿querés hacer alguna pregunta, alguna consideración?
Just to end this, which of your films are you most proud of?
Good one.
Dario?
No, which of your films are you most proud of, or you like it most?
Well, it's difficult to say, because for every one of them, even the worst of them, I had to fight a lot, and so all of them for me are the same. It depends. Star Crash is the most popular. Is the one which cost me the biggest efforts. I had to have the greatest patience. They wanted to cut, to take off all the effects from it. You cannot imagine what I had to do with producers and releases. But in the end, the picture was there, like I wanted it to be. And one picture of mine, which is very good, I think, is The Last Concert, because that's where I had not to worry about special effects. I love special effects. I have a lot of fun doing them. But they are also a limit, because I cannot shot the scene as I would like to shot it, because I am limited by the special effects. In Star Crash, for example, I could not move the camera if the effects were there, because the effects that we were making were not working on movement, on camera movement. So my camera is stuck for a lot of things. The producer criticized me because the camera was still. But if I moved the camera, the effects were not there. He didn't understand that.
Claro.
You know, it's in the last concert, I was free, only 2 actors and the camera. I could move everywhere. I think there is a scene. I've seen the picture recently at the festival. They show it. There is a scene midway through it which surprised me because I didn't really remember that scene. It's a long shot, very long shot, with a long when the girl finds again the man she loves after seeing her father and not meeting him and going away. And there is the shot between these 2 guys, she and him, in a long shot with the music moving slowly. It's a single camera shot. And when I watched it, I was surprised because it was a perfect shot with the music following perfectly the movement of the guys. And I said, Jesus, but I shot it without music. And I said, how the hell could I do this thing exactly?
Felipe, ¿algo más? Lo que quieras. Bien. Entonces,
Just thank you guys. Just thank you guys, because to me it's great that Luigi Cozzi is finally receiving the recognition he deserves. Because apart from being a filmmaker, he is also a film and sci-fi researcher from decades, you know. And it took it a long time to the academia to start to listen to him. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for this.
gracias a vos, Felipe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Luigi,
Felipe.
entonces, una última cosa. ¿Estás trabajando en algo actualmente?
Attualmente no, sto lavorando su dei I'm working on a few books. I just finished a book about Italian sci-fi movies of the 60s. We had several important movies made in the 60s years, and I just wrote a book at that. And now I'm trying to do a book about silent Italian sci-fi movies before the pictures became sound. So I like this kind of researchers.
Bien. Entonces, terminamos nuestra charla. Quiero agradecer nuevamente a Felipe que haya sido nuestro contacto. Muchísimas gracias, Felipe. Muchísimas gracias. Quiero agradecer a Jonathan,
Grazie a voi.
que aceptó ayudarnos con la traducción y aceptó a último minuto y aún así le puso la mejor predisposición.
Grazie a voi.
Muchísimas gracias, Jonathan. Y Luigi, muchísimas gracias por haber estado ahí. Ha sido un honor para nosotros hablar contigo. Y como bien dijo Felipe, y quiero retomar esto, qué suerte que su carrera cinematográfica por fin esté obteniendo el reconocimiento que siempre se mereció. Un honor haber hablado con usted. Y muchísimas gracias por su tiempo.
Grazie a tutti, grazie a Felipe e grazie a voi anche. Thanks to you all.
Hasta luego.